I'm here to say that you're either paying the stupid tax or the research tax, and both of them are putting your job and actually potentially your company at risk. So, the stupid tax, the premise is the cost that you're paying for making stupid, basically uninformed, researchless decisions. So, a lot of this do this, gut instinct, hippo influence. But then the kind of converse or maybe even continuation of that is great. Well, we're going to do some research. Research is then going to probably be too slow, too expensive.
Hello and welcome to another episode of One Night in Product Hot Takes Edition, where I speak to one person about one thing, get straight to the point and find out what's on their mind. Now, if you've got something on your mind, why not head over to onenightinproduct.com/hot, where you can find a time, book a slot, we can have a chat and share your opinions with the rest of the world. In any case, do remember to head over to onenightinproduct.com, where you can find all of my old episodes, subscribe to podcasts on your favourite podcast app, or find us on YouTube, like, subscribe, share, and all of that stuff that all the cool kids are doing these days. Anyway, enough of me, let's get straight to Victoria Sakal's Hot Take. All right, so in front of me I see a spectacular scene with a whiteboard with lots of interesting looking hieroglyphics all over the back of it. I also see a person with some very fancy headphones on. Hello person, if you could introduce yourself, tell me who you are, where you're based, who you work for, what you do, and more importantly, what's your hot take?
I'm Victoria Sakal here, coming in from Santa Monica, California. I'm lead growth at Wonder, an on-demand desk research platform powered by AI and, of course, humans. I'm here to say that you're either paying the stupid tax or the research tax, and both of them are putting your job and actually potentially your company at risk.
Wow, okay, so that's a bold statement. I guess I'm kind of curious then as to how you're defining the research tax and the stupid tax.
Yes, so the stupid tax comes from, inspired by a book by Keith Cunningham. I know Pep Blaha talks about it as well. The premise is the cost that you're paying for making stupid, basically uninformed, researchless decisions. So a lot of this do this, gut instinct, hippo influence. We read something somewhere, think it's great, get an N of one from somewhere, and we run off to the races. But then the kind of converse or maybe even continuation of that is great. Well, we're going to do some research. Research is then going to probably be too slow, too expensive, too much of a time or energy suck. And so, even in our research, we see 99% of professionals are using Google, and 66% of those professionals is saying, again, to that checklist, at least one of these is true. I'm spending too much time on it. It's too hard. There's no great tool. It's too expensive, which means you're either not asking enough questions and not doing the research and making misinformed decisions on the stupid side, or when you are, you're still having so much slack, so much wasted efficiency and resources. You could potentially get the entirely wrong answer because you asked the entirely wrong question and wasted months, money, effort, energy, and also your own equity as a talent member of the team in doing so.
All right, but let's narrow in on another term then, which is research itself. So, I mean, of course, there are lots of different types of research. And as a product person, I'm sitting there thinking, well, research could be market research. It could be trying to go out and find out what sort of macro level trends are going to affect me. It could also be more specifically kind of customer discovery, where I'm going out and speaking to individuals and trying to work out their pain points. Are you talking about both of those things, either of those things, or something completely different?
Yeah, all the above. There's a couple ways to think about it. First is there's where the insights are coming from and what they're giving you insights on. Maybe we'll start with the latter bucket to what you were just mentioning. They're talking about your consumers. They're talking about the consumer experience, how they feel, who they are, what they need, what their problems and pain points are that they're trying to solve. There's the broader category. What are the other solutions out there? How are, different players tackling it? Right, related to that is your competitor landscape, trying to understand who different players are, emerging players, direct competitors, all of that. And then there's just the broader context that your business and your consumers are operating in. That's all the trends and, how does AI hitting the scene have implications for your category, your consumers, your competitors, and the like. The different places you can get that information from is as much internal data. So that could be product data, it could be research you've already conducted, often a very good place to start. Sure, we'll get into that. There's external data then, which generally buckets into two different types. Primary, going to talk to your audience directly, hear, exactly voice of the consumer, straight from the horse's mouth. And there's secondary, which is someone else somewhere has asked something or published something that might get you closer, if not exactly, to the door of what you're trying to get insight on. If we intersect all of those things, the premise here is that there is a better, faster way to get insights. And this whole idea of agile insights, it doesn't have to be a big, slow effort. It doesn't have to be, we have to set up this whole infrastructure to mine data from our product. obviously there's a, good, better, best here. There's a world-class product or a research engine that you might have running. But the answer is not, well, we're not there, so we're not going to do anything. It's more there's creative ways to get better insights and at least get you directionally in the right direction versus miles off.
But this is an interesting topic because I've spoken to some user researcher, like as in professional user researchers from the kind of the UX world. And there's a big controversy, or at least some level of controversy, in this kind of product versus design debate that's going on about, like, I'm sure you're aware that there are some books out there. Like, so Teresa Torres wrote a book called Continuous Discovery Habits, all about product teams going out and getting feedback from real people and using that to guide their decisions. And there are some people that are almost railing against that, again, from that more sort of classic user research design community. They're being like, well, research, like, it doesn't, like, it can't be done by undertrained people. It can't be just, it's not a commodity that can be kind of executed by everyone. And if you do that, you're prioritizing speed over the quality of insights, and you're going to make bad decisions, and the customer experience is going to atrophy and get worse and worse and worse. Now, obviously, that's not necessarily specifically what you're saying not to do, but at the same time, how do you see that argument that maybe pushing towards speed can have negative impacts that maybe are going to be under-addressed because the people that are doing the research, especially in this AI world, are maybe not really that qualified to do it?
Yeah, the two things that come to mind here, one is sort of an analogy from aviation, where the whole premise is a 1 degree difference at the start of your journey translates to being a mile off over the course of 60 miles. So to your point exactly, if you're asking wrong questions, you're asking leading questions, we get the answer we thought we wanted to because you designed the question wrong. But then the other thing that comes to mind, right? The Olympics are happening right now. There is not knowing how to ride a bike. There's being you or I riding our bike. And then there's the Olympians riding their bike, right? You don't have to be an Olympian. You just have to know how to not hurt yourself, how to click into the bike, whatever the analogy is here. I think this is where, to the research tax point, there's this smart, efficient way to do it that's at least not wrong, but you don't have to get so encumbered by, we have to hire and find exactly the right vendor because, this 1 degree difference or this, one box that they check could make all the difference. At some point, the 6 months that you spent vetting 600 different options is probably going to cost you more than that one extra box. I do think, just a final comment around the general best practices with research, this is where desk research becomes really almost foolproof, right? Because if you know the right questions to ask, even if it's a leading question with desk research, you're not going to be investing, significant amounts of money, losing, the primary research effort side of things. At the same time, if you have done research elsewhere in the organization, and, I'm interested to hear your take as well, right? We have this tendency as researchers to say, there's a right way to do it. It has to come to me. It has to come through my desk. I have to be the one to do it. Okay, but you can also, are you here to just own, hold your Legos, or are you here to make sure the organization has better insights and is making better decisions? Because there's infinite questions. There's always, if you're innovating as a company, there's always going to be a pipeline of research for you to worry about, but at least make sure that the people who are doing whatever they're doing are at least not going off and you're having to pick up after your children, right? So all to say, I think that there are sort of rules of the road where you can stay smart and stay within your guidelines without going off the rails. Do you have to be a world-class Olympian researcher in order to do it? No, because otherwise we're not going to be asking the questions and we're not going to be getting the answers we need as organizations and as talent.
Yeah, I guess from my perspective, when you talk about that kind of, the Olympian versus the, me being able to ride a bike down the road versus, young child who's not worked out how to do it yet, there's almost this kind of being able to ride a bike at all. I remember, relatively recently, my son, we went on a family trip and we finally got them out onto their bikes and actually up and running and properly cycling around. We cycled round and round for miles or whatever. But there was a real kind of drag to get him to that point because he just wasn't confident or whatever. But still being even just a little bit wobbly, he was still able to then keep piling around this sort of resort as many times as he wanted. It kind of felt like any skill at all is better than no skill. It still gets you further than you would have got without it. But I guess where some of these researchers are coming from is well, these people are coming and they're taking our jobs. But then from your perspective, I guess you also called out AI as well. I mean, AI, listening to some people, it's coming to take all of our jobs. So how do you see that balance then of effectively protecting jobs, not necessarily for the sake of it, but like, jobs need to be able to justify themselves, but not going too far and destroying jobs and careers and trades in this kind of new world where we're potentially able to go out and ask lots of questions very quickly.
This whole continuum of research and then insights and then strategic insights is, I think, a helpful frame of reference here. Much simpler words to use are you go from what to why to so what to now what. And then there's then what, right? And as researchers, we spend most of our careers on the what. All we can do is collect data. Hopefully, we're helping the pre-what and ask the right questions based on the knowledge gap that our clients or our organization have. And we do the what. We ask the questions, we got the data, great, and we hand it off. And there's so little time to spend on why, which is often coming from qualitative, but it's also coming from strategic analysis of the what that you've just collected. So what? Why do we care? What are the other pieces that are, happening around our organization, whether it's inside or outside? Now what? What are we going to do about it? Forget about all the socialization of the results, but then also the actioning on and making sure that it's not just, a report sitting on a shelf somewhere with a bunch of what's all stacked up, but nothing happening from it. And then again, the then what, right? So then not only are we thinking about first order effects, we learned that Gen Z is starting to care more about whatever the thing is. Great. So when they start caring about that, what is it going to mean for the industry in general in 5 years, 10 years out? We start thinking way more to the future, not to say, we're vision casting and, wasting our time 10 years out in the future and things could change a lot in 10 years. It's more to say you move away from the tactical, this common theme that we're hearing about all of the AI value it's bringing. You're moving way out of the weeds and you're starting to pull out your continuum of value you're adding. Just cranking out research reports is not it. That's not the end game. And also, again, there's boundaries around where research can and can't add value. The why, it's not going to be helpful, right? You can ask, I'm still jury's out for me on synthetic data. Are you going to be able to ask these robots, why do you feel that way? Like, why does this matter to you? It's going to average together everything on the internet and totally lack the insight. So to me, it's more an exciting opportunity to get away from the minutia of designing the research and, drafting the questionnaire and then getting the data set collected. And it becomes so much more about all the strategic stuff. So hopefully that's more of an optimistic approach for all these researchers, but I definitely appreciate the concern.
But that AI thing around the synthetic research is a really fascinating one, because there's going to be some people like again, if we talk about a continuum, there's going to be people out there that are like really into doing everything properly and taking their time and doing all of the things. And then there's going to be people that just don't do anything and they just kind of base it all off of gut feel and shooting from the hip. And then there's going to be some people, I don't know where exactly these fit or whether it's like a three-way spectrum or something, but there's going to be some people who are just like, anything is better than nothing. Let's get it done fast. And then the natural evolution of that is going to be, well, maybe we can just use synthetic data. Like we'll just sit there and get some agent to go out and simulate 500 conversations with people, again, as you say, kind of based on the collective wisdom of the internet. I mean, you're running a platform that operates in this space. Do you see a lot of desire or appetite for that yourself at the moment? Are people asking for this, or is this something that people are maybe a little bit worried about that isn't really translating into real world requirements?
Probably relates most directly to the type 1, type 2 decision mindset where, yes, there's certain things you want to vet. You want a quick answer, doesn't matter materially to even if it's a product feature, right? Like let's get enough data. We've crossed the interval or the level of confidence that we need. Data is a certain level of fidelity that we feel good enough about it. We can make a decision and learn in 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever it is. It's not a, death spell if we picked the wrong direction. Something bigger, a broader strategic shift, right? How is AI impacting the competitive or corporate communication space? We want to a higher level of fidelity, a higher confidence interval. So we're going to spend more time on the upfront, designing things right, getting more robust data. So I think there's a lot of value in like you decide and commit, right? You vet something very quickly, you get quick insights, you ask the question versus not going back to the stupid and the research tax side of things. So many questions are not being asked in organizations because it's so hard to even get an answer. You'd rather get a half right answer as long as you're not making your decision on the half wrong part, which is hard to know, obviously, right? That's part of the gamble. But if it's directionally helpful and you're pulling in from half right from social listening, half right from desk research, half whatever, the thread's going to surface on like what the probably right thing is. And again, you can reverse the decision. So I think it's more having a sense of, and we've talked a lot about with our clients, the framework for how important is this decision? What is the knowledge gap? What is the action that's going to be taken off of it? How widely is it going to get socialized where somebody may, not pull together those three extra sources and run on something completely wrong? But yes, none of this is at the expense of speed or, we've got to move quickly to, sometimes just make decisions and sometimes small sample and sometimes that's okay. But understanding what the implications and the decisions you're making off of it are before making a big decision off of something, half right or almost there is something you have to be aware of.
What about those speeding stuff up by using, for example, AI, LLMs, whatever, to almost tell you where your knowledge gaps are and telling you where to go and focus, and maybe even kind of almost designing your research for you? Now, I'm sure there'll be people listening to this now going, "Oh, no, don't do that." But like, is that a thing that you've seen appetite for as well? Like, because not everyone is kind of research mature, right? Like some of them aren't really going to know where to get started. So do you see there being a good angle here for people to kind of be guided into what to research by the AI, but still doing the research themselves?
Yeah, the two pieces here that become really beneficial, and there may be two sides of the same coin. The first is AI, desk research in general, mining, your internal data or prior research, whatever it is. If you know what's already been asked, those are sort of known knowns. They weren't known to you yesterday, but now that you've spent the day internalizing it, they're known knowns. And you can start your research from, 50% down the way to the answer instead of 0%, and also potentially just find the same things that you already spent money and time learning. So that's kind of one piece, right? You can start farther ahead and go further because of that. The other piece with what AI is searching for, and even with the synthetic respondent piece, is it is telling you what's definitionally out there. So if you're trying to innovate and create something new or a different solution, you basically take the inverse of that, right? And therefore, if it's not coming up anywhere and you're able to mine much more quickly and efficiently everything everywhere that's out there through using tools that are powered by AI versus a human who's going to miss things, yeah, then you've informed a better strategy because you have confirmed your hypothesis that this is a white space or this is a need that's unmet in a way that we're thinking about doing it. So that's another helpful, kind of mind bend to think about the value it can bring.
What about, I mean, you talked just about mining as well. Like, what about the classic use case of LLMs? I mean, if we can call it classic, it's only been a little bit, right? But like this kind of idea of using it to basically summarize the results of research that you've already done. So, I mean, either, as you say, stuff that you've already worked out and got stored somewhere, synthesizing the stuff that you've already got, or using it to extract themes and topics from a large corpus of data that you have collected. I am assuming that that's a big use case that AI can play for your tool. But like, is that a thing again that you see that you've got good experience of? Because I'm always kind of worried that, well, what if it misses something?
Is helpful as far as horsepower goes. The two, I guess hesitations might be a strong word, but the two pushback pieces that stick out for me, our first insights are in the edges oftentimes, right? It might be a couple of random quotes that you hear from not everyone by definition that spins your wheels because gee, these were all this type of a persona versus this type of a persona. Should we pull that thread? And it's not going to get aggregated in because it's not a top of mind insight. The other pieces, again, it goes back to is how important are we just looking for the top level themes, and is that okay? Is that something we're interested in and able to act on, or do we really want all the minutia? The other piece of AI and LLMs that are not there yet, we actually do spend a lot of time thinking about this. We literally have built a clarification engine into our intake. They don't ask you questions back, right? They're not saying, well, do you want to cut this by ICP? Or interesting, I'm seeing an insight by the zip code of your respondents. Like, unless you're directing and you're knowing the question to ask, it can answer the question much more efficiently and effectively, maybe. But it's not necessarily yet having the quote unquote brains to surface that for you. Whereas, again, you can even say, I'm looking to build a targeting strategy or, a content strategy based on whatever. Does it really know all the nuance that comes with, have you thought about the algorithm and the time these people are online? Whatever the nuance is, that's where the human is still adding so much value. And to, just leave it to the summary that the AI gave me, I'm with you. I still feel leaving a lot on the table.
All right, so I want one very specific hot take as we kind of draw to the end of our time together, which is how long do you think we, carbon-based human life forms have left in doing research ourselves, and before we get kind of taken over fully by our silicon overlords?
I'm going to say it's going to actually just redefine what research means. Again, we're going to move into strategic insights and strategic research instead of, if you define research as, chop wood, carry water, get data, hand it over to someone and deliver a report, we don't have long. In fact, it's like the writing's on the wall, and it has been, I think, already in the last year and a half since all this came to be. If you're thinking about adding strategic value through insights that connect a lot of dots, instead of just doing the work to collect them, we have infinity on the horizon.
Well, there you go. That's an upbeat message to close out with, because it means that we can all still find things to do with ourselves in this robotic-powered future. But if people want to come and find you in that future, talk more about research, or maybe even find out about your platform, where can they come and do that?
Yeah, I'm active on LinkedIn, and you can find our website through my page there. You can always grab some time with me directly to chat, again, through our LinkedIn or through my LinkedIn or our website.
All right, well, I'll make sure to link that into the show notes, and hopefully you'll get some people doing some research in your general direction. Well, probably talk about this stuff for many an hour because it's a fascinating topic. Maybe we've kind of whet people's appetites on this one, but as for now, no, thanks for coming on and giving us your hot take.
Great conversation. Hopefully it gets everybody's gears turning. No more stupid, no more, and lots more research.